I call this meeting of Sylvania City Council for December 6th, 2021 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Cappellini. Here. Mr. Fry.
Here.
Mr. Hanum.
Here.
Mr. McCann.
Here.
Mr. Richardson.
Here.
Ms. Stowe.
Here.
Mrs. Westfall.
Here.
All 7 members of City Council are present, so a quorum does exist. We welcome Council Member-elect Hanson to our meeting tonight. You're very welcome to be there. We look forward to seeing you on many more Monday nights in the future. With that, let's move on to our Pledge of Allegiance, led this meeting by Mr. McCann.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions to the agenda, I believe placed at all of your seats tonight was a memo from the service director about electric vehicle DC fast charging station. This is to fund a survey, a workability of possible sites so that we can make an application for one of these. I would like to add that as agenda item 15A. We'll put it under committee referrals. It's not really committee referrals, but I want to do it before the executive session. And 15B will be the attached ordinance 78, 2021. Mr. Fry.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Other members of City Council? Hearing none, we are short-staffed here tonight. Mr. Sanford is out of town. Mr. Schroyer is attending his third graders Christmas program tonight. I agreed with him that that was more important. Chief Snore, any issues? Or Mr. Aller, anything to add? Mrs. Brining? All right, with that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and tonight's agenda is approved as amended. Agenda item 4 is approval of the meeting minutes from our previous meeting on November 15th. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move adoption of the meeting minutes for council meeting of November 15th, 2021 as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the November 15th, 2021 meeting minutes as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 5 is to present a proclamation to Mr. Stanley Chandler on the occasion of his birthday, and I assume this is him coming in. That is Mr. Bolster with him, so that is correct. Proclamation from office. Whereas President Packmaster, Cub Scout Pack 1-5. Whereas Stanley served in the Guard during World War II, then in the early 19th, operated art studio, volunteered for the Red Cross, also was a pastor at R.L. Church, whereas married to father of 4 children, great-grandfather of 5. Now, therefore, I, Craig A. Stow, Mayor, hereby proclaim December 9th as Stanley Chandler Day in the city of Sylvania, and wish him a very happy 100th birthday at accomplishment. You'll decide to what they told you. They just corralled you in, huh? Oh, the chief of police is here. There are no warrants, I assume.
We'll let him go this.
This is our normal city. Well, a lot of times you'll have the whole day. Make sure they help you to celebrate Stanley Chandler Day.
Thank you very much for serving as our city councils. Luck to everyone. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr.
Happy
Chandler,
birthday.
thank you so much for your service to the city of Sylvania over all these years. You've made many contributions that have made a significant difference.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Right.
Thanks, John.
I'll be-
All right, we will continue with our agenda. We are at agenda item 6. This is a report and a change order with regard to our large diameter sanitary sewer lining project Phase 1, which took place through the late summer and was pretty much completed here a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The two items that are included on this change order are items that we had actually discussed during the design. And when the bids came in as good as they did, below the original estimate for the project, we revisited them with the contractor to see what his ideas and thoughts were on completing them as part of this project. We had done the segments based on the ranking that was done when we had the investigation done back in 2007. And we eliminated a couple sections that were on McCord Road based on that, with the plan to come back in phases 2 or 3 of the project. Talking with the contractor, there was an advantage to do it as part of this phase, as far as the traffic control, bypass pumping were concerned. And so we put those 2 sections back in phase. The second part of the change order was done to improve the traffic conditions in the McCord, Sylvania area during the course of the project. We had discussed with area property owners the potential to put piping on their property during the design. Did not get much interest from those entities, and so we set it up so that all of the piping would be down the middle of the roads. When we went to bid, the contractor reached out to those properties and made the proposal, and actually 2 properties had changed hands in the meantime, but got much better cooperation than what we had during the conversation. And being able to locate that piping on the private property enabled us to keep that McCord and Sylvania section essentially complete. Initially, we were going to be only right-hand turns or through movements. You weren't going to be able to turn left no matter what direction you're heading. And being able to locate this piping on private property caused us to do some additional trenching and things of that nature, but made for a much more pleasant project for the surrounding. So we also decided to move forward with those changes. Those changes between the 2 does increase the project by $106,000. It takes it from $1,092,740.50, $1,199,250.50. We're still way below the original estimate. I believe our original estimate on this was about 1.45 million. Still below. We would recommend approval for change order 1 this project.
I will share with council that I drove through that construction work many times. And the fact that those lines were all cut down to road surface level and there were no pipes obstructing traffic in any direction. And then taking the pipe above ground behind Charlie Contrada's law office and back behind the bank and then coming out just under the pavement to a manhole in McCord Road. It just made that project tolerable. It took quite a while, and I welded up so much steel pipe to get that done, but it was an amazing project. And this is also the project that restricted movement at Central Avenue and McCord. You could turn right, going any direction, north and McCord Road, either direction you go straight through, but Central Avenue was closed to through traffic. That was accomplished. They set it up for 4 days. I think it took about 3, and never seemed to be too much of a bottleneck. I was very surprised with all the truck traffic that runs through there.
Very well.
So the project went very well, and I'm pleased that it's still under budget. So with that, the administration recommends Ordinance 73, 2021 to approve these 2 change orders. Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only ordinance number 73-2021, authorizing the mayor and director of finance to approve change order number 1 to this city's agreement with Bizu Sewer of Ohio LLC for the large diameter sanitary sewer lining project phase 1, which reflects the actual work performed on this project, increasing the contract amount by $106,600, appropriating funds therefore. I move passage of ordinance number 73-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 73, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 73, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. And as you can see, Mr. Aller is not going anywhere. Let's move on to agenda item 7. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Monroe Street over 10 Mile Branch, or north branch of 10 Mile Creek, project is complete. We did do some additional work on that project when we had removed the existing, just regular guardrail that was on the project, and because of the dimensions of the culvert, a guardrail isn't actually required, so we did not put one back in for aesthetic reasons. But when we got the project done, we thought we needed a little more protection for primarily bicyclists and walkers that are walking along that trail there. So we put in some decorative steel fencing along that section for a little better protection. We had some conduit that we had planned on reusing, but unfortunately it was so corroded and broken up that we weren't able to do it, so we had to install some conduit for some of the lighting. And then for solar power on the irrigation system, we had also planned on using electric connections for that. But once we got into all of the additional items that were going to be needed at work, we decided to move solar power, those that could be done at a lower cost. So adding those items increases total cost of the project by about $8,500, but the actual installed big quantity rather reduced. So we actually end up with a deduct on this contract of $106.70. Not as large as we've seen in the past, but deduct is always good on a project. So we would recommend change order number 1 for this project.
Mr. Aller, I have were these things considered on the original design, or was this post-construction?
These were kind of post-construction things. The steel fence was, the old guardrail that was there wasn't very attractive, and I didn't intend to put that back. And because it wasn't a requirement for vehicular traffic, we didn't plan on putting it back. But once we got everything constructed, all the physical closeness of the walking trail and that, we thought we were a little uncomfortable with not providing protection. So we put that.
And then will these things be considered or incorporated on future designs, or?
Yes. Yeah, the conduit, that's something that you don't know until you get into it. That's, we had planned on using so corroded, the new wire wouldn't pull through. That was an unknown that you don't know until you start digging. And the solar power unit is something that we're taking a look at. In fact, that's going to probably be a specified item when we do the silicon.
That's kind of where I was going. Thank you.
There's no further questions. Council does have proposed ordinance 74, 2021. Mrs. Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 74-2021, authorizing the mayor and director of finance to approve change order number 1, final, to the city's agreement with Vernon Nagel, Inc. for the Luke Monroe 0127 Bridge Rehabilitation Project, reducing the contract amount by $136.74. I move final passage of ordinance number 74, 2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance number 74, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 74, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Thank you. I approve of deduct change orders, but I just assumed the deduct would be down the $100,000 range like the ad was.
Flip-flop the two that we've just had.
But they're both within budget, so I approve. On to agenda item 8. This has to do with the Hollybrook Marshall Improvement Project. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As part of this project, we're improving the storm drainage in that area. And for our outlet in that area, we storm sewer back a couple existing residential lots. The area that we're taking here, typically we would put those lines basically right on the property, get a 5 to 10 foot property. But the one of the existing houses is very close to property. And so we don't have any excavation on that side of the, so we ended up going, basically putting the unit fully onto the other property, which is here, 57 Hollybrook. And as part of that, because we are onto his property a little bit, more so than what we are, just as normal construction, placing his driveway, we'll tear it up as part of the construction. We'll be putting it back. He wanted that stipulated document on the record that would be done. It's already part of the plan. But also, we have a cash offer for the land value here of $3,407. And that's based on auditor's record of land value for that. So we recommend approval of the easement. Ask for council's approval.
And to clarify, this is a permanent utility easement
Permanent. Yes,
to give access to city crews as necessary for maintenance issues.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Sure, absolutely. Yep.
As it says in Mr. Aller's cover letter, there are two pieces of compensation. One is the cash for the value of the easement, $3447. The other part is reconstruction of a new driveway for him, $3976. That will be built into the construction contract. Need to make sure that the backfill is properly compacted before any new driveway goes on top of it. That we do have ordinance 75, 2021 to approve this. Mr. McCann. The amount is stipulated in here. Oh,
Well, it's just not the title.
Yeah, it's in the body.
yep.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 75, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries and ordinance 75, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Mr. Eller, you're still on. This one's for a sewer rate increase, agenda item 9.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, with all of the work that's been done at the wastewater resource recovery facility, they've had over $20 million in work that's been done at the plant. Another $6 to $7 million that's been done for lining projects and siphon reconstruction on their trunk sewer. And then as well, as you know, we now completed phase 1 of our lining project with phases left to go. So much work that's being done on sewers that really haven't been touched in 45, 50. They're at life. It's time to do some reconstruction on them. We did receive some good news earlier. Lucas County did receive a $3 million grant for the next phase of their lining project. Ultimately, that will save us about $700,000 upfront dollars, if you will. And if you take a look at that on a financing basis, that's probably about $45,000 a year that we won't have to over the course of 20 years. That was some good news from the county. With all of the work, and of course, as I'm sure you're aware, nothing is getting cheaper nowadays. Labor costs have increased, material costs have increased. It's necessary for us to raise our sanitary sewer rates. We are recommending an increase of 35 cents per 1,000 gallons. That would take our rates from $4.20 to $4.05 per 1,000 gallons. If approved, that rate increase would increase the average monthly sewer bill in the house in Sylvania by approximately $1.92 per. We request approval of the rate adjustment and would anticipate this being effective January 25th of 20.
Kevin, what would this, how does these rates compare to Lucas County rates that are paid by our township neighbors?
By the township neighbors that are being us, or but that is
It's being paid to Lucas County.
we're right in line. We're lower than the county, not by much to the county. They're our closest competitor, well,
Right.
on sanitary sewer rates. The other area cities were substantially.
Okay, so we have part of the city that isn't in our water district that is being serviced by the city of Toledo. Will their rates be affected by this?
Their rates over in Corey.
What about over by the Kroger area?
Those, yes, their sewer rates will be affected.
And will their
Yes.
rates be the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Yeah, I know
Sorry
it
about
was-
that.
I was not very specific. Okay. So any other developments on that? On adding them into our
We are moving.
servicing? I would love
Yeah.
to be able to service those folks.
We are making progress on that. It's slow as you,
Yeah.
but we are making progress. I'm actually Thursday, I believe, with in-house staff for some of the piping modifications that us administrative people have
Right.
said can cause any operational.
I appreciate your efforts on that. Love to have all our city residents be able to deal with our city.
That would be.
Our residents receive a utility bill that includes water rates as well. I know what the water rate situation is in the second year of the regional contract, but why don't you share that with council?
For the city of Toledo?
For our water rates here in Sylvania, they're not going up.
Oh, no, our water rates are not going up. We've dropped them, 2 years ago, I believe. We're still in very strong financial shape there. When took the steps about 4 years ago to look seriously at those outside water sources, determine if another provider was the way to go. So that provided some additional funds to us on the water side. Once we got the agreement with Toledo finalized, we're now, we had stagnant rates for 2 years. We dropped a little bit last year. Now this year we dropped it with the rate that we put in the city. On the water side, we're very strong. On the sewer side, we're trying to make it a little stronger. From an overall standpoint for water and sewer, we fare very well in comparison to other Northwest Ohio.
Last Friday, I had the opportunity to debrief the water contract with former Toledo mayors Mike Bell and Paula Hicks Hudson, who were working with us to renegotiate the water rate before we got to Wade Kapsakavich. They asked me how it was going, and I was able to report to them, based on what Kevin has told me, that it has been depoliticized. The politicians are no longer sitting at the rate table. Politicians are no longer making engineering decisions. Engineers are making the decisions. And they were pleased to hear that, and pleased to hear that I was satisfied with the direction it was going. There is still some concern from some members and elected officials about the backup water source for the system. Council should know that Toledo is pursuing a reservoir option east of Toledo, a surface reservoir. Some people are whispering or shouting in my ear that that's not satisfactory because it'll all go through the same treatment plant and it's all coming in through the same intake out in the lake. Council should know what the status of that is. Know that Mr. Henry's back on the job as well.
We a couple things that have taken place with the regional water. Briefly, next Wednesday, subcommittee of the regional water commission, which I'm a will be meeting to basically audit rate structure, make sure that all of the work that we put in 4 years ago and come to an agreement on what items can be budget for all, what items should be budget for, so are exactly the way that is. That meeting will take Wednesday. It'll probably take, but that's occurring next Wednesday. As the mayor indicated, they were looking at a second source of water, a second intake was the initial plan. That's what everybody's talking about. But once they took a look at some options, they determined that an upground reservoir between Oregon and Toledo that would benefit both Toledo and Oregon's water treatment plants was the more cost-efficient, more operations efficient alternative forward. They have begun talks with property owners out in that area for see if they're interested in selling. Imagine this is going to take about 600 acres. That's a lot of property owners, a lot of agreements. So they've got a lot of work ahead of them. So, but those talks have begun, and we'll get a status update. Water.
In addition, Toledo is moving ahead with water delivery and backup capacity in their system. Mr. Aller has informed me of the plans for a 10 million gallon storage facility at the existing Lucas County pumping station that's there at the southwest corner of Holland, Sylvania and Sylvania Avenue. Got a couple of years off, Mr. Aller?
Yeah, that's probably, I would estimate that to probably a 2023 project. That'll be an 8 million gallon, I'm sorry, Mayor, storage tower. It's going to be a ground level tower. It's basically just going to be a tube that
I know
starts at
that
the
little
ground
site
and
is going
extends
to
up.
be pretty high, I would guess.
It's going to be a sizable structure. If you look at the existing tanks that are there now, those are one. size of, it's gonna be a pretty large, structure. But
But
that'll go with that in.
should go a long way to solving Sylvania's pumping problem. Our pumping station there at Brent and Maine has to suck water out of Toledo at some time.
Yep, it'll go a long way to solve some of our pressure problems. The other improvement that they'll be making, elevated, in the Alexis Road, they're still trying to determine locations for that. I'll say the Alexis and Talmadge area, I may have to move a little bit. But those two there will also, believe it or not, we can see the largest impact that we have at our station thing. The city of Toledo's high service pumping at the plant right downtown. And a booster station that's all the way down on Heather Downs Boulevard. That station has issues. We see it here at our station. Sometimes we've notified them before somebody see it. So it's, water systems are, I'm an
All right.
engineer, I find it interesting, but they're pretty interesting on how they respond, something that far away.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. That's just an update for council. Both water and sewer have been depoliticized and are being run by engineers now. So that's the good news. We do need to pass this sewer rate increase. We have ordinance 76, 2021 to do it. Mr. McCann had asked some questions of Mr. Aller about are there future increases coming, and the answer is yes. But this is the one we need to do at this time. Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only ordinance number 76-2021, amending Chapter 925 of the Sylvania Codified Ordinances by amending Section 925.05, sewer charges levied to increase the sewer charges for both industrial and non-industrial city and non-city users. I move passage of ordinance number 76-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 76, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and ordinance 76, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda item 10. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once our downtown master plan had been completed, we started taking a look at what that plan was recommending, what our zoning code said. We're finding some areas where our code may make it more difficult for some of those master suggestions to occur. We're finding some sections that in that code that would just outright probably. So what we have asked, and in fact, we've already witnessed that just with development of SOMO. If you recall, we had to zoning classification for SOMO development. Didn't allow. What we would like to do is kind of be a little proactive on this, out in front of any development that may occur. Have our code rewritten, if it makes sense, by city. But have it rewritten so that when those future developments do come, we're setting ready to go. Have to react to something that may. So we reached out to Environmental Design Group and asked them to provide a proposal, do just that. Worked with them on trying to get it, make sure that we have the scope better defined, had them concentrated in with our downtown area. Not just Main Street, but downtown. Everything. We come to you with what you see, coordinated with EDG on this. and would ask for approval to enter into an agreement with Environmental Design Group for a zoning code audit, writing services in the amount of $28,400.
Mayor?
Mr. Hanem.
Yeah, I'd like to refer this to zoning and annexation. Looking at the scope of services and not sure I'm comfortable with the proposal, the way it's written, and also a little skeptical about doing these changes in the absence of specific proposals. Be interested in doing, for one of the topics that's identified in the proposal is tiny homes and/or tiny home PUDs. I don't want to do that until I know what tiny homes are being proposed and where and talking about. I'm interested in parking, the listing here of parking maximums and parking requirements. I don't think I'm generally in favor of changing, increasing. I mean, if we're talking about decreasing, that's something, but I just don't know what this proposal is. I see the proposal was originally drafted in March, revised in October. This is the first time I've seen it. Chair of Zoning and Annexation, I'd like to understand a little more about what we're doing. I'd like to refer it to committee before we act.
Okay, I have no problem with that. I don't think this is a time pressure issue at all. The administration has worked on it on and off for that period, trying to have them address issues in the zoning code that have been brought to our attention. It started with downtown zoning was the primary source, but other issues have been brought to us elsewhere in the zoning code. So certainly we want the chair of zoning to be comfortable with this, and I would entertain a motion to refer it to zoning and annexation committee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to refer proposed ordinance 77, 2021 to the zoning and annexation committee for study and recommendation. All in favor of that indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Hanem, would you like to try and set a meeting date now, or you want to
Sure.
talk to your committee members and set it later? Again, I don't think this is a pressing issue. Mr. Schroyer was hoping to get it into this year's expenditures, but doesn't really matter whether it's encumbered or not.
I'd be happy to meet before our meeting on the 20th. That works.
I don't think that's any problem.
That we're, all right. Set it for 6:30. 20th.
That meet all right with the other members of the zoning and annexation committee?
Mr. Hanem, are you going to want to have representatives
I was
from
going to talk to Kevin
environmental
about
design?
getting some more information about,
Okay.
so. Call and see
All right.
maybe we just have somebody available at conference call.
There's no need for a motion for that. We'll have the clerk post that meeting. Here in council chambers, Mr. Hanem?
Yes.
Okay,
Here in council chambers at 6:30 on December 20th.
very good. Moving on to the second page of our agenda, we're up to agenda item 11. This is a request for a special use permit for a medical marijuana dispensary facility in an M1 zoning area as required by our code. Mrs. Brining.
Back when legislation had the opportunity. Recommended or and enacted. as a special use. There's part of the application process was last month, I believe.
Applications,
Yes, and Mr. Burns received numerous phone calls, just trying to understand our process. And I will let you take over and you can
And we
explain.
need you to tell us
Yeah.
who you are.
yeah, so I'm Michael Howard. I'm actually the owner of the real estate. So technically, it can be a housekeeping measure. It's MF development, so should it get a proper. I'm the landowner. I've executed a couple leases with applicants that have state subject to the lottery. Lucas County's granting one license, so odds are not in our favor. This, but part of the process with special use property. So currently, it's the Sylvania, but
It is the diner property itself.
it's actually the Sylvania.
Okay.
I've owned it for quite a while, but to medical marijuana.
And to have it, what is the requirement for the application process? That you have that you have the application submitted to the city, or that it be approved, or,
It's submitted through the state, and
no, I mean, for this, you need to have the zoning approved to submit to the state.
they've already submitted to the state. So there's actually something that just says that properly, that's all it has to do,
Okay,
properly zoned. But then also for you guys, so some, for example, Bowling Green doesn't require a special use. So there's actually a check, third box on that says special use permit has been applied for. So we applied for it and checked that box essentially,
all right, very good.
kind of where we're at. So we checked, I'm not the owner of the dispensary, I'm just the owner of the property. We checked, special use has been,
And if the applicant is successful in receiving that license from the state, you'd proceed with it. This is a months-long process to get the special use permit. I don't know how long it is for them.
it's, we don't know when they, I
Very good.
believe it's for December, I've heard.
This would go to our plan commission next week, come back to city council the following week, 2 weeks from tonight, to set a public hearing date.
It's not an overnight process, so the state takes a while.
Okay,
As would probably be. But it is properly zoned, everything. I
It is
believe you
M1,
guys
yes.
have the layouts and everything. It's all at attorneys and engineers.
Mr. Howard, the property itself, you indicated there were two different entities?
Only one, so I allowed,
Okay. I know they expanded the number of permits.
this
They
county's-
added one for Lucas County. Is this the only place in Lucas County that was part of the lottery, or are there other locations in Lucas County as well? Okay.
There's just one new one in Lucas County.
So there could be 100 applications for Lucas County. They came out with breaks down to, so let's just say there's 5. That obviously,
Lottery, are they just drawing it out of a hat, or they're looking at,
they go through the applications, probably gonna be one license. I happen to own property, it's properly zoned.
So you haven't, one of them could get their name pulled, and then they would be able to access this property. You don't know who, if someone gets it pulled and it's someone that's expressed interest.
It's not like someone in Toledo could. I looked it up and if you look at the M1 zoning, most of it's back. I'm one of, I think, properties. it's a good use. I think it'd be good for the city of the Sylvania. Move me to have them as a tenant. Only thing I eat when I go there, to be honest with you, is the chili.
Same
mac.
here.
Quite the fan, but I think it's a good use for it. I mean, it's part of, like I said, Wood County doesn't require special use. Toledo does, but I think plus it's a rubber stamp. Applied for the special use box on it. All right, I came from a
Very-
construction site
Okay.
in Monroe, Michigan,
Very
so I'd
good.
normally be more dressed up than this.
You do have a site plan in here. You're going to reuse the existing facility,
Yes.
and you got a floor plan that shows the improvements that would be planned for it.
Yeah, so
terrific.
quite a bit of improvements. Obviously, the state requires security. There's quite a bit of FB jump, so.
I see
yeah,
there's
this
a vault,
is-
a vault that would be built inside.
That's for storing the,
All right.
because I'm building one right now.
All we need tonight, all we can do tonight is Mr. Hanem to make a motion to
Right.
refer this to the planning commission for their review and recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we refer application number SUP-4-2021 to our planning commission for review and recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to review special use permit for 2021 to the plan commission for review and recommendation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Plan Commission does meet a week from Wednesday on the 15th. That's 5:30 PM. They'll look at it. They may, because we've never had one of these before, they may have questions. They may or may not be able to make that recommendation a week from Wednesday. Next Wednesday, the 15th, in this room
Okay, thank you.
at 5:30 PM. All right.
I'll see
Thank
you
you for
then.
coming in and giving us the story. Moving on to agenda item 12, we have some items unused or too old, but we can't get them to work anymore that have been replaced. 2 speed monitor trailer units. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, these are our speed monitor trailers that were purchased in 2007. Just getting parts for them is next to impossible. Or we have new mechanisms that we use in their place. I don't think, because of the age of them, I don't think there's any value to speed monitors, but trailers themselves do have some value. Somebody would be. We would just recommend that we list these on GovD auction.
All we need is a motion approving that list. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to place the 2 speed monitor trailer units as described in the memo from Mr. Aller as obsolete equipment and no longer of use for the city, and placing them on Gov Deals for securing bids to the purchase.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve these items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and they are approved to go to Gov Deals. Agenda item 13 is to approve some additional then and now certifications. We hope to cover many of these next year by larger purchase orders done in advance. There are several items on here, but the biggest ones, the one that says maintenance charges of $243,000, that is sewage treatment fees that we paid Lucas County for just normal sewage treatment per gallon rates, and is in the budget. The other large one on here, down at the bottom, $92,000, this is also in the budget and under contract. We have a new dump truck. This equipment's more expensive than the truck itself. It's to fit it with the dump box, the snowplow, and the salt spreader. Any further information on that one, Mr. Aller? Do we have this truck for the winter? Okay,
Don't pay for anything and got hands on it, so.
all right. I did talk to Mr. Schroyer about this entire list earlier today, and he said that every item on here is in the budget. There is no expansion of any budget item here. This is just meeting the reporting requirements for purchase orders as recommended by our auditor. So this is not changing the budget. This is meeting that $3,000 expenditure limit recommended to us by the auditor. So, Mr. Fry, I would request a motion approving these then and now certifications.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion to approve the then and now certifications from Mr. Schroyer's memo dated December 3rd, 2021 in the amount of $402,546.36.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve these then and now certifications. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and these then and now certifications are approved. Moving on to agenda item 14, are there any additional committee referrals to be made at this time? Or committee reports? Let's move on to added agenda items 15A and 15B, which have to do with a fast charging electric vehicle station. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure you recall that last year, I believe January of last year, the part of the Volkswagen agreement trust fund set up a grant for level 2 stations that we are participating. That station, fortunately, there's been a lot of changes, equipment providers, and so we've been working with EPA and the vendor, which this has been happening all over. That has now been settled, but because of the winter, some of the concrete and asphalt work that needs to be done, probably won't be installing until early spring. So that equipment, we actually will receive it within about 2 or 3 weeks. It'll be sitting spring. But as easy really as those stations are to have installed at about $14,000 dual port station, DC fast charging stations are that more. The power demands for fast charge systems are much greater. The siting can be affected in a large way depending on what power is available at site. So there's much more work involved, much more coordination with Toledo Edison involved in this, and actually coming up with appropriate sites takes some time for vendors to coordinate with Edison, Ohio EPA on where they want them located, things of that nature. So in order to just determine if we have a site that is appropriate forward with the, we need to have what's called a site assessment done. And Donovan Energy, who we're working with, level 2 station that we're submitted a proposal in the amount of $3,070 to perform that site assessment. We've already had discussions with Edison. This county does have some other sites that are used by other cities. But because we participated in the first group, we'll improve our chances, and our proximity to US 20 also benefits. So we think we have a good location, and we just have to
Share with us that location.
Our initial proposal is going to be that we locate it in our parking boulevard. That will be our initial proposal. If we have to relocate it, then we'll look at where Edison has perhaps better power available, perhaps closer.
Like Kroger.
I would
coordinate
very
with
much
private.
prefer next to the power substation, next to Sauter's Food Market, if that is close enough to the expressway interchange.
Our site in the municipal lot for the level 2 charger, just outside, like 0.5. They want it within a half mile, and we're like 0.5.
Well, Sauter's is gonna be
away,
the
so
same.
it's just outside of their magic circle. We still went ahead and approved this, because
Depends where you put the center of the circle.
there you go, yeah. And I think will be beneficial, I'm just not, I don't know enough about the electrical grid, and Edison has something in that location.
Kroger would. They've got to be a primary voltage customer. They would have the, probably to handle it.
Have it.
Solders, I don't know what Solders loads look like, but they might be able to handle it this building.
The other
Not
advantage,
without a primary voltage.
the other advantage of Kroger is it's bright, lit all the time, 24 hours a day.
Space there.
We have to remember,
Parking.
if we put a level 3 charger that we go get the funding, and put it in Kroger's parking lot, we are picking a winner. And if you're charging that much money, there's gonna be traffic backed up for miles trying to get to that charging station. Unless they're Teslas and they get it for free down in Maumee. But everybody else is gonna wanna use that, cause that price is dramatically less
Okay.
than what somebody's gonna pay
That's about what the
charger
Tesla,
somewhere else.
that's about what the Tesla charges.
As time goes on, yeah, absolutely. No doubt. Level 3 charger,
How are we-
level 3 charging, those are rare. And
And that-
that's a valuable, and Kroger's probably not gonna wanna put it there. They have the power available, but the demand's
all
gonna
the
blow them
parking.
out of the water.
And that's one of the things that we're, put the future, don't want to put the, have no room for others, or work ourselves into a problem because of traffic. So those are the things that we're,
What about Rite Aid?
could be a potential.
I mean, they're not, when you charge these, they don't, even the fast charges take a while. So having it,
Depends. 30 minutes.
45 minutes.
right, 15 to 45 minutes, which gives you time to go to a Kroger or to go to a nearby someplace.
They're also much more expensive. This is all like, they are possible 100% grants, but like most grants, or well, if you,
Flower could do it with their eyes closed.
So we've got transmission power going in there.
Yes, that's 138 kV going into Flower, what? I know that too. There's no perfect answer to any of this.
I do like the idea of having it a little bit closer to downtown if you have to wait, charge up. Nice walk around time. Grab a drink or grab a drink. But maybe.
A pop, soda pop would be okay.
Or spot something in a window while walking around. So if we're able to be within their grant limits and still have it be downtown without causing a traffic issue.
one of the things, another thing that they look at is proximity to, primarily restaurant. All your setting,
Another thing to be considered, the telephone switching center just of us right now used to use a heck of a lot more power than they're using now. That building was added on to, and I was part of that. We had to air condition there 365 days a year because of all the power going into that building. They don't do that, it doesn't work like that anymore. So there might be some primary power over there that's available. Okay,
Take a look. We're not locked into any certain, it truly is a site assessment. Number one doesn't work, where are some other sites that can?
Will we have input?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Will we have input?
Yes. Yep. Ultimately come back to grant approval. That is due into the Iowa. So this will be back in front of you.
This and get right location and get a, have to work with Donovan?
There are 7 approved vendors, Department of Services, that we have to work with. Donovan is.
One last thought, next to Sodders, we wouldn't want to put it where the river trail is going.
all right, you do have, it was placed at your spaces tonight, ordinance 78, 2021, to approve the expenditure of $3,975 for this study to be done by Donovan Energy. Lindsay, why don't you read this proposal? This is a building and grounds issue if it's in the municipal parking lot.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 78-2021 and read by title only. Authorizing the mayor and director of finance to accept the proposal of Donovan Energy to perform a site assessment relative to the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency's DCFC Electric Vehicle Charging Station Grant Program, appropriating funds therefore in the amount of $3,975. I move for final passage of ordinance number 78-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 78, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and ordinance 78, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Thank you. That brings us to the end of, that brings us to agenda item 16, which is an executive session to discuss pending litigation. Chuck, you need to tell us how we can do that. But first I need a motion from council to go into executive session, committee of the whole executive session.
I'll move.
I need the clerk to call the roll.
Mrs. Capellini?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Hanem?
Yes.
Mr. McCann?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Stout?
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall?
Yes.
The vote is 7-0. And once can go ahead and report that this council is now returned to open session. During our executive session, only pending litigation was discussed. No action was taken during the executive session, and no action is going to be taken at this time as a result of the executive session. With that, we are to the end of our agenda, and I am looking for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, and this council stands adjourned until its next regularly scheduled meeting 2 weeks from tonight on Monday, December the 20th at 7:30 PM. Thank you all.